Alex was a normal guy living a quiet life on Space Station Zeta, a distant outpost on the frontier of human-occupied space. He worked as a maintenance technician, keeping the station running day after day. It wasn't the most exciting job, but it paid the bills, and he had grown to like the peaceful routine of it all. One evening, as Alex was settling in after a long shift, his door chime rang. Puzzled at who could be visiting at this hour, he opened the door. Standing there was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She had flawless pale blue skin, long silvery hair, and large expressive eyes that seemed to shimmer between green and purple. She wore a simple white robe that flowed over her lithe, graceful figure. For a moment, Alex just stared, stunned by her exotic beauty. Then he noticed the distress on her face. Tears streaked her cheeks, and she was trembling. "Please, sir," she said in a musical voice. "I beg you, let me be your servant." Alex blinked, sure he must have misheard. "Excuse me, what? Who are you?" She bowed her head. "My name is Talia. I am of the Orient people. I have escaped the Zorgans who conquered my world and enslaved my kind. I have come to you, seeking the human master to serve." Alex was shocked. He knew of the Orions from news reports, a peaceful, technologically advanced species renowned for their beauty and artistry. He had heard their homeworld had fallen to the Zorgans, a brutal warrior race that treated other species as chattel. But why would an Orion woman show up at his door? "Please, I'll do anything," Talia begged. "I can cook, clean, mend, whatever you require. My people have heard that humans are kinder than other species. That's why I came to this station, hoping to find an Earthling to take me in. The Zorgans, if they find me." She shuddered and hugged herself, looking so vulnerable that Alex's heart clenched. Gently, he ushered her inside, sitting her down on his couch. "Look, Talia, I'm so sorry for what's happened to your people," he said carefully. "But I don't keep servants. Humans don't believe in that." Talia looked at him uncomprehendingly with those incredible eyes. "But I must serve. It's what I was raised for, what I'm meant to do. An Orion woman's highest purpose is to care for her master." Alex suppressed a grimace. The poor woman had clearly been brainwashed by an oppressive society. On Earth, such ideas had been left behind centuries ago. The thought of owning another person was abhorrent to him. "You don't have to be a servant, Talia." "Not anymore," he said. "You're free now. I can help you apply for refugee status with the station authorities. They'll protect you, set you up with a place to live and a job, so you can support yourself." Talia shook her head vehemently, silvery hair dancing. "No, you don't understand. I cannot be alone, masterless. I wouldn't know what to do, how to live. I am begging you." She slid gracefully off the couch to kneel at Alex's feet, bowing until her forehead touched the floor. "Please, Master Alex, let me serve you. I will work tirelessly for you, anticipate your every need. I have nowhere else to go." Alex was speechless. What was he supposed to do? He couldn't in good conscience accept her as a servant. But she seemed so desperate, so afraid. If he turned her away, what would become of her? Where would she go? Talia remained prostrate, awaiting his decision. With a heavy sigh, Alex gently took her shoulders and raised her up to sitting. Her eyes were luminous with unused tears and fragile hope. "All right, Talia. I won't turn you away," he said finally. "You can stay here for now, while we figure out a better solution than servitude. I promise I'll help you build a new free life. Okay." Talia's face lit up like a sun, her smile blinding. "Thank you, Master Alex. I will serve you so well. You'll see. I won't let you down." She threw her arms around him in a joyful hug. Alex returned the embrace awkwardly, wondering just what he had gotten himself into. He couldn't shrug off the feeling that his formerly quiet, routine life was about to change forever. In the days that followed, Alex tried his best to adapt to having Talia in his life. True to her word, she proved to be an exceptional housekeeper. His small apartment had never been cleaner, his meals never more delicious. Talia seemed to take great joy in doting on him, always seeking new ways to make his life easier and more comfortable. But for Alex, it was a constant source of unease. Every time Talia bowed to him, called him Master Alex, or rushed to fulfill his slightest request, it made his skin crawl. This wasn't right. He didn't want a servant. He wanted Talia to be free, to live her own life. He tried to broach the subject with her several times. "Talia," he said gently one evening as they sat together after dinner, "I really think we should talk about getting you set up on your own. There's a refugee center on the station that can help. They'll give you your own place, help you find a job." But Talia just looked at him with those wide, uncomprehending eyes. "But Master Alex, my place is with you. Serving you is my job." Alex sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know that's what you were taught, Talia. But it doesn't have to be that way. You're not a slave anymore. You can make your own choices, live your own life." Talia shook her head. "I don't know how, Master Alex. On Aria, we were never given choices. We were only taught to obey, to serve. It's all I know." Alex's heart ached for her. What kind of society denied its people even the most basic autonomy? He reached out to take her hand, looking into her eyes. "Then I'll teach you, Talia. I'll show you what freedom means, how to make your own way in the universe. It won't be easy, but I promise I'll be there to help you every step of the way. You're not alone anymore." Talia's eyes shimmered with tears, but there was a spark of something new in them too. Something that looked almost like hope. She squeezed Alex's hand. I will try, Master Alex. For you, I will try to learn." Over the next few weeks, Alex did his best to expose Talia to new experiences and ideas. He took her to the station's gardens and museums, showing her the beauty and knowledge that were the birthright of all free beings. He introduced her to his friends, demonstrating how equals interacted with warmth and respect. Slowly, tentatively, Talia began to open up, to express thoughts and desires of her own. She started asking questions, not just about how to serve Alex, but about the wider universe and her place in it. But progress was slow, and there were setbacks. Talia would often lapse back into subservient behaviors, growing distressed when Alex refused to give her orders. The conditioning of a lifetime was not easily overcome. And there were other challenges too. Alex began to notice a change in how his coworkers and neighbors looked at him. There was a new wariness, even suspicion, in their eyes. Whispers followed him in the hallways, hushed conversations that stopped when he drew near. He realized, with a sinking feeling, how it must look to them. A single man, living alone with a beautiful Orian woman who called him master. They must think he was taking advantage of her, keeping her as some sort of exotic slave. The thought made Alex feel sick. He redoubled his efforts to help Talia gain her independence, encouraging her to interact more with others on the station. But Talia was reluctant, clinging to Alex as the only safety she knew in a strange and frightening new world. Alex was at a loss. He knew he was doing the right thing in trying to help Talia, but he couldn't deny the strain it was putting on his own life. And he couldn't shake the feeling that, despite his best intentions, he was still somehow complicit in her oppression. Late one night, as he lay sleepless in bed, Alex's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden pounding on his door. Jolting upright, he hurried to answer it. Standing in the hallway were three grim-faced Zorgan warriors, bristling with weapons. The one in the lead fixed Alex with a cold stare. "Earthling," the Zorgan growled, "you are harboring escaped Orion property. Surrender the female to us immediately, or face the consequences." Alex stood frozen, his mind racing. The Zorgans had found Talia. If he handed her over, she would be dragged back into a life of slavery and subjugation. But if he refused, he risked bringing their wrath down upon himself and the entire station. Behind him, he heard Talia gasp, her voice trembling with fear. "Master Alex, I will go with them. I won't let them hurt you because of me." She started to step forward, but Alex held out a hand to stop her. He faced the Zorgans, his jaw set with determination. "Talia is not property," he said firmly. "She is a free individual, and she is under my protection. You have no claim on her." The lead Zorgan snarled, his hand going to his weapon. "Foolish Earthling, you dare defy us. The female belongs to the Zorgan Empire. Surrender her, or die." Alex didn't flinch. "I don't think so. This is a human station, under human law, and we don't recognize your claim. Now, I suggest you leave, before I call station security and have you arrested for trespassing and making threats." For a tense moment, the Zorgans loomed over Alex, their eyes burning with menace. Then, with a final growl, they turned and stalked away. "This isn't over, Earthling." The leader spat over his shoulder. "You've made an enemy of the Zorgan Empire. We'll be back for the female, and for you." As soon as they were out of sight, Alex sagged against the doorframe, his heart pounding. He had never stood up to anyone like that before, let alone a group of armed alien warriors. What had he been thinking? Talia rushed to his side, her hands fluttering over him anxiously. "Master Alex, are you all right? I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I never should have come here, put you in danger like this." Alex took her hands, looking into her stricken face. "Talia, this is not your fault. You have every right to be free, to live your own life. I meant what I said. I will protect you. I won't let them take you back." Talia's eyes filled with tears, but there was a new light in them too, a glimmer of determination. "Master Alex." "No, Alex," she corrected herself. I won't let them take me either. I want to be free. I want to stand up for myself, like you did." Alex felt a surge of pride. Talia had come so far from the trembling, submissive woman who had first appeared at his door, but he knew they were far from safe. The Zorgans would be back, and in greater numbers. They needed a plan. Over the next few days, Alex and Talia worked feverishly to prepare. Alex reached out to his contacts in station security, warning them of the potential Zorgan threat. He and Talia pored over star maps and ship schedules, looking for a way off the station and out of Zorgan space. But even as they planned their escape, Alex couldn't ignore the change coming over Talia. She was blossoming before his eyes, growing more confident and self-assured by the day. She no longer waited for his permission to speak or act. She began to express her own opinions, make her own choices. And to his surprise, Alex found that he was changing too. Talia's gentle strength, her unflagging optimism in the face of adversity, inspired him. He began to see his own life, his own choices, in a new light. Late one night, as they sat huddled together over a star map, Talia turned to him. "Alex," she said softly, I want to thank you for everything you've done for me. You've shown me a new way to live, a new way to be. I never could have imagined this life, this freedom." Alex's throat tightened with emotion. "I should be the one thanking you, Talia. You've taught me so much about courage, about standing up for what's right. I'm a better person for having known you." Tentatively, Talia reached out to touch his cheek. Alex leaned into her touch, his heart racing. For a long moment, they sat there, eyes locked, the universe seeming to hold its breath. Then, from the direction of the docking bay, there was a sudden burst of commotion. Alarms blared, people shouted. Alex and Talia leaped to their feet, a cold dread washing over them. The Zorgans had returned. Alex and Talia raced towards the docking bay, pushing through the panicked crowds. The sound of weapons fire and screams filled the air. As they reached the bay, they skidded to a halt, taking in the scene of chaos before them. A dozen Zorgan warriors were storming through the docks, blasters firing. Station security personnel fought back bravely, but they were outmatched and outgunned. Civilians ran for cover, some falling to Zorgan fire. "We have to help them," Talia cried, starting forward. But Alex held her back, his eyes scanning the battle. "We can't take on that many Zorgans with just my stun baton," he said grimly. "We need a plan, and we need better weapons." His gaze fell on a nearby cargo pod, its hatch ajar. An idea formed in his mind. "Talia, over there. I've got a plan." They slipped around the edge of the firefight, ducking behind shipping containers for cover. Reaching the pod, Alex wrenched the hatch open and dived inside, Talia close behind. "What are we doing in here?" Talia asked, her voice tight with fear and adrenaline. "This is a shipment of mining equipment," Alex explained, rummaging through the crates. "If we're lucky." Aha. He pulled out a pair of industrial laser cutters, tossing one to Talia. "These should even the odds a bit." Talia caught the tool, her eyes wide. "Alex, I don't know how to fight. On Aria, we were never allowed to touch weapons." Alex gripped her shoulder, looking into her eyes. "Talia, I know you're scared. I am too. But those Zorgans, they're not going to stop until they have you. We have to fight back, for your freedom, for the lives of everyone on this station." He showed her how to aim and fire the cutter. "Stay close to me. We'll get through this together." Talia nodded, her jaw setting with determination. Side by side, they burst out of the pod, charging into the fray. Alex had never been in a real battle before, but he found that his body seemed to know what to do. He dodged and rolled, his laser cutter flashing, cutting down Zorgans with precise shots. Beside him, Talia fought with a fierce grace, her fear transformed into a righteous fury. Together, they turned the tide of the battle. The Zorgans, caught off guard by this unexpected resistance, began to fall back. Station security rallied, pressing the advantage. But just as victory seemed at hand, a shadow fell over Alex. He spun to see the Zorgan leader looming over him, his blaster leveled at Alex's chest. "Die, Earthling scum," the Zorgan snarled, his finger tightening on the trigger. Alex braced himself for the end, but the shot never came. Instead, the Zorgan stiffened, a look of shock crossing his face. He crumpled to the ground, revealing Talia standing behind him, her laser cutter smoking. I couldn't let him hurt you," she whispered, her hands shaking. With their leader fallen, the remaining Zorgans quickly surrendered. As the smoke cleared, Alex and Talia stood amid the wreckage, leaning on each other for support. "You were amazing," Alex told her, his voice filled with awe and something else, something warm and tender. "You saved my life." Talia smiled up at him, her eyes shining. "We saved each other." Around them, station security and civilians began to cheer, hailing them as heroes. But Alex barely heard them. All he could see was Talia, beautiful and brave and free. In that moment, he realized that his feelings for her had grown into something more than just friendship or protectiveness. He loved her, truly and deeply. But there was no time to dwell on this revelation. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The Zorgans would be back with reinforcements, and Alex knew that he and Talia couldn't stay on the station. It wasn't safe for them anymore. They needed to get off the station, out of Zorgan space. They needed to find a place where Talia could truly be free, where they could build a new life together. Alex took Talia's hand, squeezing it gently. "Come on," he said. "Let's get out of here. It's time to go home." Escape from the station was a harrowing affair. With the Zorgans still in pursuit and station security on high alert, Alex and Talia had to use all their wits and courage to make it to a shuttle undetected. But finally, after several close calls and heart-stopping moments, they found themselves in the cramped cockpit of a small cargo shuttle, blasting away from the station and into the dark void of space. As the adrenaline of their escape began to fade, Alex set the shuttle's autopilot for a distant star system, one he hoped would be beyond the reach of the Zorgan Empire. Then he turned to Talia, who was staring out the viewport with a mix of wonder and trepidation. "Hey," he said softly, laying a hand on her shoulder. "How are you holding up?" Talia turned to him, her eyes brimming with emotion. "Alex, I don't know what to say. You've risked so much for me, given up your whole life. I can never repay you. Alex shook his head, smiling gently. Talia, you don't owe me anything. Helping you, fighting for your freedom, it was the right thing to do. And besides, he added, his voice growing softer, being with you, it's given my life a purpose, a meaning that I never had before. Talia's breath caught. Slowly, tentatively, she reached out to touch his face, just as she had that night in his apartment, a lifetime ago. Alex, I feel the same way. You've shown me what it means to live, truly live. I love you. Alex's heart soared. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. I love you too, Talia. More than anything. For a long moment, they clung to each other, reveling in the warmth and closeness. Then Alex pulled back, looking into her eyes with a new intensity. Talia, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to build a future together, a life of freedom and love. Will you marry me? Talia's eyes widened, then filled with tears of joy. Yes, Alex. Yes, 1,000 times yes. They laughed and cried and kissed, lost in their own little universe of happiness. For a blissful interlude, the troubles of the galaxy seemed far away. But reality intruded all too soon. A sudden, urgent beeping from the shuttle's console brought them back to the present. Alex rushed to check the readouts, his brow furrowing in concern. We're being followed, he said grimly. A Zorgan warship, gaining on us fast. Talia paled, fear gripping her heart. But then she squared her shoulders, her eyes hardening with determination. They won't take us. Not again. Not ever. Side by side, they took their stations. Alex at the controls, Talia manning the meager weapons. The Zorgan ship loomed on the view screen, a behemoth of metal and menace. Attention Earthling vessel, a harsh voice crackled over the comm. Surrender the Orion female immediately, or be destroyed. Alex's response was to pour power into the engines, sending the shuttle hurtling forward. Talia fired the shuttle's lasers, scoring hits on the warship's hull. The Zorgans returned fire, their superior weapons rocking the small shuttle. Alarms blared, consoles sparked and smoked. In the chaos, Talia saw their chance. A small gap had opened in the Zorgan shields, a result of their concentrated fire on the shuttle. Alex there, she cried, pointing. If we hit that weak spot with everything we've got. Alex nodded, his jaw set. Hold on tight. This is going to get rough. He sent the shuttle into a dizzying spiral, drawing the Zorgan's fire. At the last second, he wrenched the controls, bringing them up and over in a stomach-churning loop. Talia, anticipating the maneuver, fired a full volley directly into the warship's vulnerability. The Zorgan vessel shuddered, explosions blossoming along its hull. Their weapons are down. Alex exulted. Talia, you did it. But their celebration was cut short by a sudden, sickening lurch. The shuttle's engines, damaged in the fight, had failed. They were adrift, helpless, and the Zorgan ship, though crippled, was still coming. Alex reached for Talia's hand, holding it tight. Talia, I'm sorry. I thought I could save you, keep you safe, but I failed. Talia squeezed his hand, her eyes fierce despite the tears. No, Alex, you didn't fail. You gave me freedom, love, a life worth living. Whatever happens, I will always be grateful for that. They clung to each other as the shadow of the Zorgan warship fell over them, bracing for the end. But the end did not come. Just as all seemed lost, a new shape emerged from the void of space, a sleek, silver ship moving with a speed and grace that put the lumbering Zorgan vessel to shame. Unidentified vessel, this is the Orion ship Libertas, a voice crackled over the comm. Stand down immediately or be destroyed. Alex and Talia looked at each other in shock and wonder. Could it be? Had Talia's people come for them? The Zorgan ship, already crippled by Talia's attack, seemed to hesitate. Then, with a burst of its remaining engines, it turned tail and fled, disappearing into the black. A cheer went up in the shuttle's cockpit. Alex and Talia embraced, laughing and crying with relief and joy. Earthling shuttle, prepare to be boarded. The Orion voice came again. And Talia, welcome home. The next few hours passed in a blur. Alex and Talia were brought aboard the Orion ship, where they were greeted by a contingent of Orion officials, all of whom seemed to regard Talia with a mix of awe and reverence. Talia, daughter of Oria, one of them said, bowing deeply. Your bravery and resilience in the face of Zorgan oppression has inspired us all. You have become a symbol of hope and freedom for our people. Talia looked stunned, overwhelmed. I don't understand. How did you find us? The Orion smiled. Your escape from the Zorgans did not go unnoticed. When we heard of an Orion woman seeking refuge with a human, we knew it must be you. We have been searching for you, hoping to bring you home to a free Oria. Alex's heart sank. A free Oria. Did that mean? Would Talia leave him, go back to her own people? Talia seemed to sense his thoughts. She took his hand, squeezing it tightly. My place is with Alex, she said firmly. He is my home now. The Orions looked surprised, but then nodded with understanding. Of course. The bond between you is clear. Alex, you will always be welcome among us, as one of our own. In the days that followed, Alex and Talia learned the full story. After Talia's escape, word of her defiance had spread among the Orion people. It had sparked a revolution, a rising up against the Zorgan oppressors. With the help of sympathetic humans and other allies, the Orions had overthrown their Zorgan masters and established a new free government. Talia, though she had been absent, had become a hero, a symbol of the Orion spirit. Your story has given our people courage, the Orion leader told them. The courage to fight, to take back our destiny. We owe you a great debt. Talia shook her head, smiling through tears. You owe me nothing. I only did what I had to do. What Alex taught me to do, to stand up for myself, for my freedom. She turned to Alex, her eyes shining with love. And in doing so, I found something even more precious. I found you. Alex couldn't speak past the lump in his throat. He could only pull her close, marveling at the incredible woman he held in his arms. The Orions offered them a place on Oria, a chance to start a new life in a world of freedom and opportunity. But Alex and Talia had another idea. We want to go back, Talia said. Back to the station, back to human space. There are so many others like me, Orions and other species, still living in servitude. We want to help them, to spread the message of freedom. The Orions were surprised, but then nodded with understanding. You have found your calling, the leader said, and we will support you in any way we can. And so, armed with a new ship, new resources, and a new purpose, Alex and Talia set out to the stars once more. They knew the road ahead would not be easy. The Zorgans and others like them would not give up their power willingly. But together, with their love and their shared commitment to justice, Alex and Talia knew they could face anything. They had already found freedom. Now, it was time to help others do the same. Years passed, and the legend of Alex and Talia only grew. Across the galaxy, they became known as the Liberators, the indomitable human-Orion pair who brought hope and freedom to the oppressed. Wherever there was injustice, wherever beings suffered under the yoke of tyranny, Alex and Talia would appear, rallying the downtrodden, striking fear into the hearts of the oppressors. They raided Zorgan slave camps, freeing captives by the thousands. They infiltrated the palaces of corrupt rulers, exposing their crimes and toppling their regimes. They became the stuff of myth and song, the heroes of a galaxy yearning for justice. But it wasn't all glorious battles and daring escapades. There were hard times too, times of doubt and struggle. There were days when the task seemed insurmountable, when the forces of oppression seemed too strong, too entrenched. There were losses, painful and personal, friends and allies fallen in the fight. And there were challenges to their own bond, moments when the strain of their constant battles threatened to tear them apart. But always their love and their shared purpose brought them back together. In stolen moments of peace, they would hold each other close, whispering words of comfort and encouragement. "We're making a difference, Talia," Alex would say, his eyes shining with conviction. "Every life we save, every chain we break, it matters." And Talia, her spirit as indomitable as ever, would nod. "We're in this together, Alex. Always. No matter what comes, we'll face it side by side." Their greatest challenge came on the day they returned to Oria. The Orian people, once so united in their newfound freedom, had fractured into factions, old resentments, and new ambitions tearing at the fabric of their society. A new leader had arisen, a charismatic figure who promised strength, security, a return to the old ways. And to the horror of Alex and Talia, many Orians were listening. "We cannot let this happen," Talia said, her voice shaking with anger and grief. "My people cannot trade one set of chains for another. We have to stop this." And so, one last time, Alex and Talia went to war. But this time, it was not with blasters and ships, but with words and ideas. They spoke to the Orian people in grand halls and public squares, reminding them of the dream they had fought for, the promise of a society built on freedom and equality. They debated the new leader, exposing the flaws in his arguments, the hidden agenda behind his honeyed words. They rallied the supporters of liberty, forging a new coalition dedicated to the preservation of Oria's hard-won freedoms. And in the end, they prevailed. The Orian people, remembering the ideals that had brought them out of bondage, turned away from the path of autocracy and reaffirmed their commitment to a free society. In the aftermath, as the Orian people set about the hard work of rebuilding and reconciliation, Alex and Talia knew their work was finally done. They retired to a small house on the outskirts of the capital, a place of peace and quiet where they could at last rest, reflect on their adventures, and simply be together. "We did it, Talia," Alex said, as they sat together in their garden, watching the Orian sun set behind the hills. "We made a difference. We changed the galaxy." Talia leaned her head on his shoulder, smiling softly. "No, Alex, we changed each other. And that made all the difference." They sat in silence for a long while, content in each other's presence. They knew that the galaxy would always need heroes, that the struggle for freedom and justice would never truly be over. But for now, in this moment, in this place, they had found their own piece of peace, their own happily ever after. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The end.